A llama adopted a small, weak goat in its herd. The documentary chronicles the day-to-day vigilance that kept a vulnerable animal safe against all odds. Settle in for their journey. If you believe in the power of these stories, a simple like helps our channel immensely. On a sprawling farm in the American Midwest, the social order is clear. The herds function on instinct, a complex web of hierarchy and survival. For the flock of goats, this means a constant, subtle competition for food and standing. And for the llamas, it means a different role entirely. Llamas are the designated sentinels. Their natural role is to be aloof, watchful guardians of the entire flock. They scan the fence lines for coyotes or stray dogs, their instincts programmed to protect the collective. Among them was Elsie, a large, tan-colored llama, diligent and effective in her role. She was a guardian of the perimeter, not a nurturer of individuals. Then Timmy was born. He was a Nigerian dwarf goat kid, and he was exceptionally small, frail, and weak. From his first breath, he struggled. He was too slow to keep up with his mother, too small to navigate the rough and tumble world of the goat herd. He was, in the harsh calculus of nature, an outlier, a life unlikely to thrive. But Elsie, the guardian, noticed. Her attention, normally fixed on the distant tree line, shifted. She watched the small, dark-colored goat kid falter, pushed aside by the others. And in that moment, a profound instinct was rewritten. Her purpose was no longer the herd. It was him. Elsie stepped away from her post and walked deliberately toward the vulnerable kid. She lowered her head, a gesture of immense gentleness, and nudged him. The guard had just chosen her ward. The farm's rhythm was broken. Elsie's new behavior was immediate and absolute. She abandoned her post at the perimeter, her gaze no longer scanning the distant horizon for threats. Her entire world, her entire purpose, had shrunk to a 6-pound circle of vulnerability. Timmy was perilously weak. He lacked the basic instincts to navigate the herd and the strength to survive its indifference. When the sun set and the temperature dropped, he shivered, too frail to find proper shelter. When his own mother moved with the herd, he was left behind, crying out. Elsie's response was not just protective, it was maternal. She began to herd Timmy, but not as part of the flock. She would gently nudge him with her nose, guiding him toward the warmest part of the barn, away from the drafts and the trampling hooves of the other animals. When he was too cold, she would stand over him, her large, fleecy body acting as a living blanket, trapping her warmth around his small frame. The farmers watched, baffled. This wasn't the aloof behavior of a livestock guardian. This was something far more personal. The first true test came at feeding time. It was a daily chaos, a rush of bodies as the goats jockeyed for position at the troughs. Timmy, small and slow, was immediately pushed to the back. He wouldn't have eaten at all. But Elsie intervened. She walked calmly into the center of the goat herd, an animal of a different species and a different size, and planted her feet. She used her long neck and her body as a living barrier, physically walling off a small section of the trough. She stood like a statue, absorbing the shoves of the other goats, and looked down at Timmy. It was an invitation. Timidly, he stepped into the safe zone she had created and began to eat. This was not instinct. This was a conscious, deliberate act of nurturing. From that day on, their bond became the new law of the farm. Elsie's vigilance was relentless. She was no longer just a guardian, she was a bodyguard. When Timmy slept, Elsie stood over him. She would not lie down herself, not until he was safely resting. She would stand there for hours, a tan and white sentinel, watching him breathe. She hummed, that low, vibrating sound of llama contentment, and it was directed only at him. The other goats, and even the other llamas, learned the new rule. Timmy was not to be touched. If another goat was too rough, if it tried to butt the small kid, Elsie would be there in a moment. She wouldn't attack. Her protection was more subtle and more profound. She would simply move her body between Timmy and the threat. She would pin her ears or give a low warning hum, a clear signal that this small, weak creature was under her personal, defiant protection. He was, in every way that mattered, her baby. And under this constant, vigilant care, Timmy began to change. The kid who was too weak to stand properly now had a shadow. He followed Elsie everywhere. He was never more than a few feet from her side. He would run and play, but always circle back, pressing against her leg for reassurance. He had found his sanctuary, not in a place, but in a person. He would sleep curled between her legs, shielded from the world. Elsie had defied her own nature. The sentinel had become a nurturer. The guardian of the many had become the fierce, dedicated mother of one. The farm's social code was rewritten, not by the farmers, but by the will of a llama who refused to let a life falter. Weeks turned into months. The frail kid who couldn't stand was now a robust, energetic young goat. Timmy's transformation was complete. He was no longer the outlier. He ran, he jumped, he was fully integrated into the herd. But his bond with Elsie remained unbroken. He had the strength to be independent, but he chose to stay by her side. And Elsie, seeing his new strength, finally relaxed her vigil. She no longer had to guard him at the trough. She no longer had to stand over him as he slept. He was safe. Her job was done. But their connection had become something more than protector and protected. It was companionship. They would graze together, rest together, existing as a quiet pair. Elsie had not just saved a life, she had raised one. She had looked at a creature outside her own species, deemed weak by the laws of nature, and imposed a different law. The law of empathy. It is a profound reminder that the instinct to nurture can be more powerful than the instinct to survive, and that sometimes the greatest act of defiance is simply the refusal to let go. Thank you for joining us. If this story moved you, please consider liking and subscribing. It truly helps us bring more stories like this to light. We have a question for you. What was the single moment in this story that resonated with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one.